We are live. So,
Yay!
so Kandi, you are a phenomenon here in Israel,
Wow, thank you.
and I've been searching for you now for the past month, hoping to get you on the show.
Well, I'm glad you found me. I haven't left my home, so
Who's calling us?
that's not true.
Ah, somebody's phoning me. Why are you phoning me, dear?
Mark, you just called him. That's my husband. I guess he wants equal time.
Okay, that's the other half. We can say hello to Mark.
You can
Okay,
tell him.
I'm gonna
I want to see it.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
answer
go
him.
on.
I just answered him.
He just answered you. Never mind. Just ignore him. It's not a. He's like a heckler right now. We don't get a lot of hecklers, so he's always dreaming of heckling me and seeing if I can handle it. And I think I can.
1 second. I can't figure out what's going on now.
Can you shut the phone? Because you're ringing him.
Somebody's ringing me.
It keeps ringing. All right, now the phone's off.
Okay, and now
All right, finally.
I can't find you. Where are you? Ah, here you are. Okay, 1 second. I'm going to bring you back here, and then I'll be able to see you. Oh, a ganze mechaya. Do you speak any Yiddish?
Well, I know what that is. I speak, some expressions. My grandmother spoke Yiddish, but I don't speak Yiddish. English, French, and Hebrew. That's it. Sign
So how
language.
about I can give you some Yiddish lessons, and you can give me
Really.
some being funnier lessons.
Um, hmm.
Was sagst du? Was
Um,
sagst
I don't know. Teaching isn't my favorite thing to do. It isn't. At this stage, I just want to go out and have fun. I don't want to learn more.
I
I
thought
can't remember what I already learned.
I thought that blondes have fun.
I don't know. I have fun whatever color my hair is. That's my motto.
Yeah, me too. Me too, Candy. Me
I'm
too.
all about fun.
Okay, great. So in order to have fun, we have to begin with the jingle. The show has a
Okay. Yeah, you have a jingle, right?
we have to the jingle Mels.
Okay. You've got Mel.
Absolutely.
That's why
So
I'm here. I love your logo.
you can't have it.
I don't
Get a
want it.
chair, grab a seat, or we'll sweep you off your feet. We move, we groove, you got Mel. Ease your legs, rest a while, all you gotta do is smile. We're swell, can't you tell you got Mel? When the show begins, you better hold on real tight, or before you know it, you'll be high as a kite. Take a break, settle down, we're the only show in town. It's our own, don't you know you got Mel? Give it up, don't think twice, we're a hurricane on ice. What the hell, give a yell, ring your bell, show and tell. Mademoiselle, give a smell, you got Mel.
You've got Mel,
Yay.
and Mel has Kandi Abelson. So Kandi, you are a phenomenon in Israel.
It's amazing. I came here and I wasn't expecting it.
Even my wife wants to meet you.
Oh, good. Hi. What's her name?
Julie, you have to do refresh. Everybody's talking about you. People are phoning me.
I
My
love it.
wife wants to see you, so you can be on the show, Anyway, Kandi, you're on television. You're being parodied, which is like a sign of very, high honor.
I haven't seen the parody, so
I'll
I
parody
didn't
you.
even know that's news for me.
I
I
can.
mean, everyone in the green room parodies me. I'm the easiest person to mimic. Um, but it's great. I didn't expect it. At 65, you don't expect a viral video, and then to get, a commercial written for you and in Corona, and go out when everyone has to stay home. You get to spend a day near the beach shooting this great commercial.
The
So
commercial is
such a great
incredible.
commercial. The content is really great. Also,
Yeah,
I
and
mean, it's candy for candy.
yeah,
That's not a bad thing right there. And the fact that I look at young kids and call them old people, yeah, boomerang, that's just great because I do feel young and I feel like the kids are older than me. So do you feel
and
like that?
yeah, and did you have to pay them to make the commercial?
No, they pay me plenty. I don't pay anyone.
Yeah.
I'm past that. Actually, that's why I don't perform in English, because they don't pay you. So that's why it's hard for you to find me. I switched over to Hebrew where they actually pay for my shows. So
That's incredible. So anyway, so I'm so happy to meet you. And you're from Montreal.
yes. And,
Start at the beginning. How does a nice Jewish girl from Montreal become a stand-up comedian in Israel?
well, I'm born in Montreal. I'm the third of four kids. My mom grew up here, so she had a huge connection to Israel. She was born in Germany, and her father saw the writing on the wall, came here when she was 5. She lived here. She was anyway, and she ended up in Canada because of the war. Um, but she always had a connection. So I went to Hebrew school, of course, and I thought I learned Hebrew in case I went to Israel and French in case I went to France. I came here in 72 and for a summer holiday, and I ran away from the tour. I realized, tours are a terrible thing because your job is to listen to some guy, and that's the last thing you want to do when you're on a holiday. You want to explore, you don't want to listen. So I ran away, and I found this lady who was related to us through marriage, and she said to me, she lived on the beach in Beit Yanai, which if you're not from Israel, it's like one of the more beautiful beaches in the country. And she said to me, hey, my house is on stilts, and if you want to come and study here, I'll close off an apartment for you downstairs. I'm 16 years old. I live in freezing cold Montreal, and someone has just offered to give me an apartment in Israel. Okay. So I came here for a year, and it was a 73 war, and I didn't want to leave, but eventually I had to. And then 40 years later, when Mark said in LA that he wasn't happy and let's go somewhere, he thought, oh, she likes Israel. I like Israel. Let's just go there. So in a roundabout, quick, way, that's how I got here. But I lived in Switzerland. I lived in Belgium. I lived in
Candy,
the US.
there's 40 years where you're wandering around the world.
Exactly. And I
No,
literally did. I had a business in Switzerland. I had a business in Belgium. Then I lost my business. Many people became unemployed. And I felt terrible. And I said, next time they take my job, they can kill me. Everybody says I'm funny. Let's see if I am. And I came back and I became a stand up comic, which has taken me all over the world. I performed in London and in Paris and in all over the US and Canada, of course, and now Israel. And in 3 languages. I couldn't have imagined that could have had such a amazing career so far, which isn't really gonna go on any downslide anytime soon, as far as I can see. I think it's my retirement plan to support my husband, who has supported this starving artist for many years.
you told me in our pre-interview
Yeah.
that you owned a comedy club in Montreal.
Yeah, I mean, I was the producer um, of the Comedy Nest, which is still there. It was the first comedy club. I wanted to be a comic, but I didn't have the guts. And one of my friends said, "There's a guy, and he needs a partner." So I met him, and it turns out he was a really nice guy, but he had burned some bridges, and he just needed somebody to meet that they wouldn't slam the door in their face. So I was that guy, and I started the club, and I helped the kids out for a year. I wrote their jokes better, and I took pictures of them, and I worked the sound booth and greeted everyone. And after a year, I retired, and I put my what I produced the first Just for Laughs comedy festival, and in the editing room there was a woman, and they didn't like her because they didn't like her arms. They thought they were fat. And I went crazy. I was, of course, the only woman there. And I was like, are you kidding? She's so much funnier than any of the guys. Who cares about her arms? And they were like, no. So I had a veto. So I vetoed Jerry Seinfeld to get back at them from the TV show. I just left them on the cutting room floor.
You vetoed Jerry Seinfeld?
Yep. He still got his
I,
TV show, but he got his show there. But I obviously had to get out of the business of producing after that. And I said, I may as well try my hand as a comic. And I know if I'm ever famous, I better just cover my arms. I won't get on television, you know. And so here it is, like 34 years later or something, and I do cover my arms, you know, because I am that age. But it's a comedy's great because you can do it through everything, and it just changes due to your circumstances and your location, but your heart and soul stay the same.
Mhm. I noticed, Candy, that there's an analogy between
Mhm.
one of your funniest jokes, at least in my ears, with Moses and the burning bush and wandering around, lost in
Yeah,
his for 40 years. You also wandered for 40 years.
I did. I wandered, and I think I'm home, but who knows? You know, I want to go from here to the cemetery, but I don't know. Um, yeah, that joke is. I do it in three languages. It's been in my act for forever.
Okay, so
I can't
English,
stop it
English and Hebrew, I know.
and
The third
French,
language is Yiddish.
French.
Can you do it in French?
Yeah, yeah. I've done total. I've done my own show in French. I've done the festival in French. I did Saint Denis Theater, which is three. I performed to 20,000 people on the street in French,
Eh,
and it was unbelievable. I mean, I've gone to France and performed in French, and
can,
yeah.
can we hear how that sounds in French?
Um, sure, but we have to talk for a minute while I collect my little joke thoughts, which live in another room. I have to go into the storage and find them. Mark, how does that joke start there? The weed joke in um wait a minute. Yeah, but further on in French or even in English or Hebrew.
You can do it
Um
in English and then we'll translate it into French.
the you know, I love to smoke, and people, you know, I go, yeah, well, maybe it's illegal, but it's been around forever, since the time of the Bible. Pot actually grew. Where did it grow? On Moses' grave. No, is that? That's it. Oh, that's what the burning bush was. It's funny how I haven't done this because this video went viral and a million people saw it in 3 days. And so I literally have not done this in 18 months because once more than a million people have seen it. So you're catching me like I'm, you know, it's something that I know so well, and they can go and find it in one of three languages. But I say, since the time of the Bible, oh, pot actually grew on Moses' grave. That's what the burning bush was, a huge joint. That's why Moses stuttered. Remember when he had to go back up the mountain, he forgot what God whispered in his ear. He's like, what commandment was that? Wow, this is good stuff. Um, in French, I say, what do I say in French? Hey, bah, c'est pas légal, mais ça existe depuis toujours, depuis le temps de Moïse. Oui, c'était ça le buisson ardent. Vous vous souvenez que Moïse est remonté la montagne? Il a oublié ce que le Dieu lui a dit aux oreilles. Okay, that isn't that great because it's time, but you get the point. I have a terrible accent in all my languages.
That's part of your charm.
I hope so.
So in this 40 years of Candy that we're missing, you went back to Canada. Did you go to
I didn't stay long. I just stayed long enough to start comedy um, in Montreal. And then as soon as I had 30 minutes, I moved to Toronto and started working Yak Yak's tours. And the little sidebar is that the first year when I knew I wasn't going to earn any money because I refused, I said, I'm going to be like a kid. I was 29 and I said, I'm not going to get a second job and I'm not going to work at anything. I'm just going to do this like I have no backup plan. But I didn't want to spend the winter freezing in Montreal. So I came here and I worked on 2 films as a production assistant. And I did stand up in the evening. And why did I even tell you? Oh, so as soon as I met the producer, who then flew me out to American Film Institute, where she was studying to work on her film and do anything and audit classes. And as I was auditing the classes, I realized, oh, I think I want to produce films. I could do this. And I didn't have money, so she paid for my entrance, like my application. It was like $300. And I got accepted, and I went to American Film Institute. So I moved to Hollywood, which was great because I was too old to make it twice, I thought. Now I've made it a third time, so, or a fourth time, I don't even know. So obviously you're never too old to remake it. But I didn't know that then. You think that's the end of your world. So I moved to LA, and when I graduated, I decided to stay there and just go on the road. And I went on the road literally 50 weeks a year because I wanted to make people in every part of the US laugh. And I wanted to know everyone. I didn't want to sit in LA in an office. I wanted to be a writer, but I wanted to be a writer who would speak to the whole country.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I aspired to do, and I did that for many years. And then I only came off the road to take care of my manager, who was dying of cancer. And she forced me to go to a cancer support group with her. And that's where I met my husband, whose wife was conveniently dying of cancer too. That's so yeah, we ended up together, and I'd never been married, and I was 45 by now. And he just it didn't like LA, and I wasn't prepared to live with an unhappy man. I've always chosen what I had to do. I don't have kids, I didn't have a spouse. So if something isn't making you happy, why not change it? So that's how we got to Israel. That's the 40 years in a kind of a quick version.
So I'm intrigued by your process. Where do you come up with,
Writing process.
where do you come up with the jokes? You're hilarious. I mean,
Thank you.
your delivery is terrific.
That's
Uh,
time. At the beginning, I stared at the ground and mumbled, and I didn't stop even when they laughed. You know, that's years and years and years. I wouldn't say that I'm a good performer. I say that I'm super comfortable on stage. And that's what you feel, the ease and the comfort. I'm not one of these comics that's manic and screams and yells, and you know, I'm like a relaxed comic because I have to think and be in the moment. That's the most important. I write a lot on stage with the audience, and then I always have ideas. It's just observations, and it's people like you telling me, oh, that's funny. And I'm like, really? That's funny? Oh, okay. And when I have an idea, I run to my husband has been working in quarantine for 10 years. He works in England from the computer in the kitchen. And I run in and say, do you have time to hear a new joke? So, and then sometimes they're not good enough on their own. So they sit in a drawer in my head because I don't actually have drawers. And a year later, I have a different idea, and somehow it just joins in. Like, for instance, something I just wrote 2 days ago, as an example, I said, you know, I told my husband when we got together, no surprise parties. Number one, because I don't like surprises. But more importantly, I don't want to know how well he can lie to me. Because if he's good at lying to me, I can't believe another thing he says for the rest of our lives. Every time I'm looking in your eyes, but you could be lying. You lied for 3 weeks while you were prepping that thing, you know, daily, multiple times. And so that's you know, that's based on something about surprises that I've been trying to make work periodically for about a year. And I got it to work, but not to a level. And then when I, you know, put in the husband lying, it was like, oh, okay, now we have something to build on. You know, that'll come back in a couple of weeks. It'll be 5 minutes.
so Kandi, how similar is your persona on stage to Kandi off stage?
Pretty much identical, except that I don't make jokes all the time in life.
No,
I
but
only do them.
I mean, like, you know, you
My
crack us.
energy is the same. My the way I talk is the same. The fact that I reveal everything is the same. The fact that I'm completely honest with you, even if it's going to make you feel bad, that's the same.
No, I mean we just double up in laughter. Your thing about the drug dealer in quarantine.
Oh yeah. You mean in on police arrest?
Yeah, with the
Before quarantine, yeah.
with
Yeah,
the
my
pizza,
dealer
with the
um,
pizza.
was in house arrest, which was great because I always knew how to find him at home, and nobody else would go, so he was alone, and he had all this stuff because they didn't even take it to him; they just tied him to a table. So I'd go in, he'd tell me where it is, he'd give me a discount, I'd bring a pizza, everybody's happy. Yeah, those are just they just pass through your head. I call it the comedy god. I don't know who he is and where he is. I'm just grateful that I have time to listen to him, and you know, just whatever. It's an unending well because you have this tree of jokes, and you're always cutting off the dead limbs, and then you're growing new growth. And unless you cut, you don't have room for the new growth. You won't even see it.
So here in Israel, we're hungry for your type of comedy. How,
Great. I
how,
mean,
describe your success. You're on national
um,
TV.
I think that first of all, the comics really love me and respect me. So they shared a lot of comics that I don't even know when I meet them now, and I don't know them because I don't watch that much Israeli television. And so I'll be on a show, and people will come up to me and they'll say, "Wow, you're amazing," and I'm like, "Are you so and so?" And everyone's like, "Oh, she just asked so and so if he was so and so," and I'm like, "Oh, but I don't know him." And so I always introduce myself, regardless of who I'm meeting, because I don't assume that people know me. But often they just go, "Come on, Kandi, Mrs. Walt, Mrs. Click, the Goose." They know me, and I think that bit. I mean, something maybe we is illegal, but it certainly unites every Israeli of every age. And I had a bus driver stop on Allenby in the second lane. The door opened. He was Haredi. I mean, well, whatever. He looked Haredi, and he yelled to me, "Kandi!" And I looked. I was like, "Oh my God!" The bus Haredi driver is screaming my name. I looked at him, and he goes, "Ani ohev otach." Like he just yelled that he loves me with his like big hat and his payas. And I was like, "Whoa!" And just spoke to people. Um, those jokes. Some of them were written in the last like 2 weeks before the bit came out, and some of them 25 years ago. And it came to get, and some 6 months ago, and some 2 years ago, and it just came together in a seamless little perfect nugget that spoke to everyone. But I have been doing this, every night for a million years, everywhere. And so my husband is not surprised, but I just never stayed anywhere long enough to actually get famous. I was afraid of it. I mean, Roseanne asked me to write on her show. I said no. Leno
What?
asked me to do his show. I said no. I wouldn't leave out the F word. I'm like, wait a minute, my F words are art. I'm not going without them.
No, but one second. What were you afraid of?
I just was afraid of getting stuck. Like people who work in LA, they don't have time to grow as artists. I always like my motivation is to write the funniest jokes. So I'm glad that you're telling me that I have the funniest jokes because that's always been my only motivation, never to be a star and never to have my own whatever, just within anything to be able to bring the most funniest jokes on every topic and to entertain and make people laugh wherever they are and whoever they are. Like one of my goals is to go into a jail or prison or whatever where people are stuck and see if I can make them laugh because their reality isn't yours and mine like that. So I think it's just a lot of years of experience and not compromising and saying things that people don't always say. Old fashioned comedy,
And a lot of irreverence.
a lot of irreverence. Because why should we be reverent? But, you know,
Your
I mean,
joke, yeah, your joke on the this is like you know, for me, it's like a classic. You know, of
Which one?
Israel, one of them wandering in the desert for 40 years.
Oh yeah, so yeah, that's why. Oh right, okay, so they were wandering for 40. Yeah, because they were stoned. There's no other reason than you would wander. It's like hello, yeah. It is a great joke. I agree. But I have a lot of them that I think are like classics. The same way I admire other comics, but that's what I do all day. I
No,
just
but
walk around, do my errands, and think of things that are funny. I talk to people. I don't just try and think what's funny, but I actually meet people, talk to them, ask them questions, invite them over, drink with them, smoke with them. Life
and
is good.
do they know that they are creating material for you?
Yeah, like for instance, before Corona, I did 2 shows at night on Thursday and Friday usually, and I'd be walking home from the Zoa to my house, which is about a 20-minute walk. And people would stop me about every 3, 4 minutes, kids on the street. And they would say, "Hey, you want to smoke with me?" And I'm like, "Sure." So I'd smoke with them. And then I knew that they knew my head. So I'd say, "Oh, I wanted to try this new joke tonight, but I ran out of time. Can I try it on you?" And they'd be like, "Sure." So I'd try it on them. Sometimes they even give you a tag and I'd see their reaction. And then I'd go 5 more minutes and run into another group. "Hey, you want to smoke with me?" "Sure." Yeah, it's great. I mean, because where am I going to meet all these kids? They're never going to talk to me. If I'm not on stage telling them what's in my heart, I just look like another old guy. They're not even looking at me. They're like, oh, they're looking at the ground as they go by. And now they walk by and they just, "It's you, it's you." It's cool. The other thing is, honestly, that my material was too harsh when I was young, in sometimes. Now nobody's offended because it's just like, oh, we have a license to be a little more brash, a little bit more impatient. Um, it's great. Listen, I got famous a week before I got famous. Like every single time I went to a gig with the guys, I would walk in and they would say, "Who are you?" And I'd say, "I'm Kandi. I'm one of the comics." "Ha ha ha. Really? Who are you?" I'm like, "Okay, I'm his mother." And they start laughing again. "Okay, I'm his grandmother." "Oh, okay, welcome." They never, ever, ever believed that I was the comedian arriving. There was so much judging just by, I was not a guy, because at the comedy bar they're all men. So I wasn't a guy and I wasn't young. Therefore, and I didn't speak Hebrew properly. So those three things made it very hard for them to believe that I was actually a comic.
So, how does it feel? Like, is this your moment now?
I
Um,
hope so. I
if you
mean, it
walk,
was going to be my moment until Corona. I was just on this rise. But then Corona happened, and lucky for me, it's really been, my agent saw it coming. He built a studio. I haven't stopped working the entire year. I actually have an emergency. Like I am a essential worker. I have a letter from the government that I'm an emergency comedian at the television. So I actually have a letter that accompanies me to all my gigs. And we've had a studio where we've always had a few live people, even if it's only 5 or 10, and 6 cameras and huge Zoom screens. And so I've been able to perform to people in Japan and England and Canada and Israel at the same time in business gigs. And it feels amazing. I mean, it feels amazing not to be opening for someone who isn't as funny as I am, which happens a lot when you're making a name for yourself. Here I get to do the hour and a half. In Israel, you do a lot of time. In America, the most you ever do is 45 minutes, even as a headliner. But here you do your own show and you do 90 minutes. They're paying you, they want. So I do 90 minutes in Hebrew, which is amazing because I get to explore everything and go everywhere. And, there's so much material I have a long life. I've been writing jokes for a long time. I have a lot to say, it turns out. So
well,
I'm
Candy,
enjoying it.
when you go in, how much is Adlib, and how much is stuff that you've built up and that you know off by heart?
Well, Adlib is It depends on the show. Adlib can be as low as 5% and as high as 30%. Depending on the audience, and you started and you have good intentions, but if they're not guys that go with you, then you need all your material. And because they're paying you, you always have to do a great show. But on nights where they let you and they're really fun and you're really on, then it could be as much as 30%. Although that's rare. That would be like best case scenario. But you better be ready to cover it all with material. Because only when that happens will you have great improvs.
So it looks like you're improvising, but essentially it's resting on a lot of writing and experience.
Absolutely. There's no other way. I mean, it's not, you can see how you're going to be, but you can't get there. In Hebrew, when I started, I was so terrible. And then I was like, relax, you've been bad in comedy before. You can get through this. At least now you have experience. And I was, you have to be bad before you can be good. And then you feel bad for the audience. You're like, listen, I'm sorry you have to listen to this. One day I'm going to be really good and you're going to be happy that you had the patience to not throw things at me. Thank you. So I get it. And I really, I know what it's like to be an audience member, I want them to laugh. They're coming out, life sucks most days for most people. So I'm glad you remember the jokes.
I try. No, because as a Canadian from Ottawa, and to meet a Landsman, and you have such a wonderful view of the quirkiness of the country.
Yeah, well, it is a quirky country, but I say about Canada that when I was a kid starting to date, all the guys said I was frigid, and then I moved away from Canada, and it turns out I was just cold. I mean, who feels sexy in long johns, Fredericton, Newfoundland is a scary place. Well, that's like an old Canadian joke for you. And the reason I left Quebec is because, my name's Kandi, and then they had the language thing. And so they wrote me a letter saying that if I was going to continue to perform in Montreal, that I had to change my name to Friandise. So, I wasn't having that, and I left.
Is your name really Kandi?
It really is. It's my middle name. I was named after my two grandmothers, Esther and Chaya. Elisa Kandi. No intention of calling me Elisa, but she gave me the name Kandi, and she gave me the name Elisa in case I was fat or ugly. So then they might revert to Elisa, you see. So she didn't let me get fat because she wanted to call me Kandi.
So when you went to school, you were Kandi?
Yes. And then in Hebrew, they called me Sukaria. And in French, they called me Bonbon. So ask me how much I hated my name. I think that my comedy seeds might have been born then. Or when I knocked down the row of ballerinas. I'm not sure.
You knocked down a row of ballerinas?
Yeah, I was in a ballet recital and you had to pick up your foot with your, and I was showing off because I could do it really well. Don't show off, guys. I spun around on my toe like on this, and I hit the next girl who hit the next girl who hit the next girl in a full auditorium. I was like 9 years old.
So you invented the domino effect.
Yes, I invented the domino effect. I never thought of that. Thank you, Mel. A much better way of looking at it than humiliating the whole class in front of their parents and grandparents.
This is incredible. Kandi, what haven't I asked you? What do you want to tell me about? Nobody's watching. Do you have any questions about Israel?
Do I have questions about Israel? No, I don't. But Mark, Mark, when we were getting together, we met in a cancer support group, and it was all women, because apparently guys don't stay to take care of their partners or their parent. Like, it's hard for them. So they were all women taking care of their spouses or brothers or whatever, and me. I was taking care of my manager, who wasn't even a friend, but everyone else leaves. So Mark, after his wife died and everybody died, we all started hanging out. And then I went on the road and I had a birthday. I was staying with my brother and I got a huge box of chocolates. And my brother said, oh, Leonidas, not just any chocolates. So my brother said, who sent you those? I said, Mark. Who's Mark? He's just a friend. No, he's not just a friend. I said, yeah, he's just a friend. His wife died. He's friends with all of us. He said, no, you don't send a big box of chocolates to a friend. A friend gets a small. I'm like, I don't think so. 3,000 miles away, you don't send a big, huge box of chocolates. You know, I don't know. But it was an unlikely thing that we got together. It's an unlikely reason that we came here. And I think, you know, he took care of a wife for 14 years who they didn't even have a good relationship. So I say, like, he found me like the candy and the Cracker Jacks. I'm his prize because he's such a great guy and he didn't even know it. I mean, there's a lot of guys that don't even know they're good guys because they got some horrible wife telling them they're horrible. So I'm very lucky and happy.
So it was a candy for chocolate deal.
Yeah, he makes cakes. That's the only reason I'm married.
Do you want to bring him on? He's home.
Yeah, you want to come on, Mark?
Mark, come and say hello.
Bring a chair.
Hi, Mark. How are you?
Here. Okay. How are you? She's asking. Oh, answer.
I'm fine. I'm fine, thanks. Hang on, see if I've got another.
He's happy I'm getting famous. He's the most excited of all.
So that was what I wanted to ask you. You know, Margaret Thatcher became famous, and I'm not sure Dennis had a good time. And here, Kandi's becoming a household item here in Israel. How do you deal with this?
How do I deal with it? I make a dinner in the evening, same as always. I've been waiting for 2 decades for this to happen. That's how long we've been together. Otherwise, it could be 3 decades. But we've only been together for just over 20 years. So I'm over the moon. I'm so happy when she gets stopped in the street, people recognize her. I step back, you know, out of the way because who am I? I'm nobody, and I just stand there quelling. No, shortly after the goose bit hit, about a month after that, we happened to be in Montreal visiting Candi's mother. And one evening we went to Schwartz's, the famous smoked meat restaurant. We were standing in line, and behind us in line are a group of 4 Israelis, and we know they're Israelis because they're talking Ivrit. And they happen to live in Toronto, and they're just visiting Montreal for the weekend. And Kandi turned around and said something to them in Ivrit, and one of them turned and, "Goosh, you're the goosh." No, this was in Montreal. So, and again,
And my brother didn't believe it. My brother thought it was my friend or I planted it. He can't wrap his head around the fact that his little sister is famous.
Like the joke, who knows me in China?
Right. Yeah. So, by the way, and I'm going to be on a sitcom soon in Israel. So
Really?
it's going on to other things. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about it till it's up there, but yeah, soon to be.
Ah, so you're not talking about it. So we'll wait.
Yeah, just, whatever. No, I mean, I don't mind saying a sneak, but I'm not, going to actually give details because anything can happen. Production's open, production's closed. Please God, it'll stay open, and I'll get my moment in the sun on television as well.
Okay, so before we talk about the Beatles, I want to ask you
Beatles?
about
That was my first concert.
Hold on, we're going to get there in a minute, but I have
Okay.
one more question before we do the Beatles. How did your mom relate to this career of yours? It's not a standard career for
No.
a Jewish maidele.
So my mother is just over the moon. I mean, she, my mom, who is kind of not a prude, but with words, very proper. She's very proper. And I'm filthy when I get the opportunity. I can be clean when I'm working for the government, but my choice is to let it rip because that's life. That's life in its truest form. And always for the joke, not just for that. And she thinks I'm the funniest thing. She can't stop laughing. She knows all my jokes. She reminds me of jokes that I've forgotten. She'd come to all my shows, and then like a cousin would come and she'd say, "Do you want to sit with me?" And Dave would say, "Look, Auntie Sari, I can't sit with you when Candy's going to open her mouth like that on stage. It's too embarrassing to me. So I'm going to sit somewhere else." But she just, I mean, she was tickled pink. My mother is not conventional at all. Um, she may look conventional, but she taught both my parents taught me to make choices based on my needs and wants and not necessarily what others. My father uh, had a hard time with it at the beginning. And then just before he died, he came. I was headlining in Montreal the week before he died, and he brought about 20 friends to the club. And I had a killer show. And he was so unbelievably happy and proud, and his friends were over the moon. And so I'm really grateful. I mean, although he was in the audience when 20,000 people were screaming for me in French, but the next day he gave me notes because that's what dads do. You know, if you talked about this, you could, Dad, 20,000 people were screaming my name last night. Give it a rest, you know. So he always thought you could make things better, and I'm glad because that's how I feel. It's a good way to be, really.
It's wonderful to have this ability to be who you want to be. Um,
You're right. And also, you know, going through Corona, as someone who goes on stage every week, I've watched the evolution of it. And I've done new jokes every week about it. And it's given me it also gives you an outlet. It's better than a shrink. I mean, you get to process. Any Israeli that pisses me off is in my act, you know, and I tell them, hey, I'm going to, you know, you're still going to be a jerk tomorrow, but everyone's going to be laughing at you tonight. So it's
Candy,
leverage.
I relate to that. You know, I write children's books, and the evil characters are always people that piss me off.
Right. It's
It's our,
great.
it's our little joke, right?
Yeah. That's, you know, they're asking for it.
Yeah. So before I let you go, the Beatles. We
What
always
about,
end the show with the Beatles.
oh, okay. So that was my first concert, the Beatles. I was 10. My dad took me to the Beatles. So you got a free pass after that. Isn't that amazing? Did you see them live?
No.
No. Okay. Because they did come to Canada, like to Montreal. I didn't know if you were there. So how do you end it with the Beatles? Like,
So what's your? I'm assuming you love the Beatles.
I like them a lot. I don't know. You know, I mean, I used to love them. Oh, you're going to ask me what my favorite Beatles song is?
Yes, and then I'm going to
Um,
ask you to sing it.
oh, you're gonna ask me to sing it, so it has to be one I can sing. So it has to be something very singable for me. Are you gonna sing with me?
Sure. I'm going to pretend I'm singing with you.
Oh no, then that
Okay, I'll sing with you. I'll sing with you.
am I allowed? No, what's
Yeah.
gonna
Oh,
be? Oh, when I'm 64, maybe. Let's do when I'm
no,
64.
and I love her. It's so
Okay,
beautiful.
all right. It is a beautiful song,
I
but I
can
don't know how it starts.
I give
Give
her
forever my love. That's all I do. And if you saw my love, you'd love her too. And I love her.
she gives me
Gives
every
me everything.
and
And tenderly, the love my lover gives, she brings to me. And I love her. A love like ours would never die as long as I have you near me.
bright are the stars that shine.
Stars sunshine. Dark is the sky. I know this love of mine will never die. And I love him. Okay, I think that'll
Candy, this was remarkable. Um,
good. Thank you, Mel. I hope it was good.
and
You never know, you can't judge yourself, right?
yes, and if you ever need somebody to practice jokes on, my fees are very minimal.
Okay. I'll remember that.
maybe even free.
You take bit? That's a stupid question that everyone's always asking. Did you take bit? No, I don't take bit. I take money.
Actually, I'm a PayPal person.
Okay.
Kandi
Great.
Abelson, this
Thanks,
is
Mel.
remarkable. Thank you, Mark. I just wish you to go from strength to strength.
Yeah,
And
and
we,
come down and see a show.
well, when we can, I'm going to come down.
Okay.
I might
Great.
even, I might even buy a ticket or two.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll wave to
Great.
you from the audience. Will you recognize me?
No, you'll come and talk to me before. Then hopefully we can give a pre-corona hug.
Bye, dear. Thank you for being on the
Bye.
show.
Okay. Take care. Bye.
So much fun.